Hello and welcome to Why Exercise? A lot of you have asked that question. I've asked it myself. I want to say thank you so much to the tech crew that have stayed here today to broadcast this on the radio and to support the system. They're working overtime, and we appreciate it. I'm glad it's cool in the sanctuary today, so we're going to not make you get up and do any jumping jacks today. But I hope that you will take some of this information and practice it into your life. All of the presentations that you're receiving today are general educational and motivational information. To receive personalized information designed for your specific needs, contact your physical therapist. David is a licensed physical therapist who did his pre-physical therapy requisites at Andrews University and graduated from Loma Linda University. David comes from a family of medical providers and was influenced while in high school that he wanted to help people with health and fitness. He's worked in the settings of home health, hospital care, outpatient physical therapy, and private practice. Health is David's passion, and he shares many tips for better health with his patients. David practices what he preaches, both in his healthy lifestyle of dietary habits as well as his fitness regime, and has experienced transformation in his lifestyle. Helping people to achieve their health goals is his greatest joy. And David thanks God for the opportunity to share his passions with everyone he has a chance to speak with. David Parker.
Thank you so much. I'm going to be talking about flexibility. As you can see here, the quality of bending easily without breaking. I'll say easily. We'll get to that. I thought this was kind of funny here. When I asked if you were flexible, Mrs. Harkis, I was talking about your hours. So you can see that she has quite a bit of flexibility in that hamstring right there. It's going way over her head. I'm going to give you a few photographs of flexibility here. And this person has amazing flexibility. A gymnast. Most of us can't do that, of course. But we'll go over them. A backward bend. You see how far she can backward bend. We'll get into why people are always like this all the time. Backward bending. Great example of that. Another one. Doing the splits. She's stretching her hamstrings and her adductors, the muscles on the inner part of your thigh. She's doing a great job with it. And another gymnast. How about this one? This is one I give to my patients all the time. I really like the idea of rolling over a ball. I'm going to show you using this foam roller too later. And then we get into shoulder flexibility, overhead. Can you reach overhead, or are you limited? And why are you limited when you reach over your head? Many reasons for it, and we're going to discuss that. Hamstring flexibility. I've had so many patients say, I never could touch my toes. That was out of the question. I could not bend that far down without hurting something. And we'll talk about that. Why is that? Why are your hamstrings, the majority of Americans have tight hamstrings? I guarantee if I was to test you, you'd all have tight hamstrings. No question about it. Let's go on. So what are we stretching? That's the key thing. When you think about muscles you're stretching, no question. Fascia, we're going to describe what fascia is. And then capsules, we're going to describe that too. Well, easy one with muscles, right? That's your hamstring right there. Everyone has a hamstring. Usually it's always tight. So we're stretching the muscle itself, the muscle belly. And let's go on. This is fascia. Now you notice that fascia is a very critical connective tissue in our body. And you see the fascia goes around the whole muscle. The fascia goes around the fascicula of the group of muscle fibers. Fascia goes around here too. So the fascia is a connective tissue that keeps the muscles in their proper place. So when you stretch, fascia is definitely going to be stretched. And then the last one we want to talk about is capsules. Now you see this right here. This is a capsule of the shoulder joint. It is a connective tissue that surrounds the joint. It keeps the synovial fluid in that joint. Now, on the shoulder, whoops, sorry about that, guys. In the shoulder, we have ligaments that run here, and they are thickened portions of that capsule. So we stretch all those things, and we stretch other things too. But that's the major three components that jumps into my head when we're talking about doing flexibility. All right, so we kind of discussed the three different types of structures and we're in a thing. Now, why do flexibility exercises? Number one on my list here is to prevent injuries. And I'll tell you a story about a patient that I saw that really tore his hamstring up. He loved softball. That was his big thing. He was about 50 years old. He lived and died for softball. And so he was running to first base, and the second baseman was throwing that ball to throw him out. And at the last second, he reached for that base, and he heard a pop. He fell to the ground, and he was done. He came to my clinic that time. I remember he had black and blue from his bottom to his knee. He was on crutches and couldn't walk. When you palpated that area where the hamstring was, it was a divot in there. It was like a hole. He had torn it quite severely. I would say 3 or 4 centimeters of tear. So it took me 4 months to get him back playing softball again. Now, the reason why he did that is he had tight hamstrings. And when he really reached out very greatly to touch that base, it exceeded his length of his hamstring normally, and he tore it. So the first big thing on our list is to prevent injuries. The second one, to provide function with daily sports and activities, it's kind of the same thing. If we're not flexible, we can't get underneath the cabin to get something. We can't reach here. We can't reach there. So if you're inflexible, it's going to reduce your daily activities, including sports. The next one on this is the muscles work more efficiently. If you have a tight hamstring or a tight shoulder or tight muscles, your muscles can't elongate normally. They can't function like they were supposed to function. So you impede your muscle of working correctly when you have tightness. Okay, provide a state of relaxation. And yoga classes are a perfect example of this. When you are stretching and you're allowing your muscle to go through its normal extended range, a lot of times there's these little sensors in your muscles, little Golgi tendon apparatus or sensory mechanical apparatus in your muscles itself. And when you elongate and stretch those, it kind of gives you a sensation of relaxation. So if you do yoga and you stretch all your body, a lot of times you'll come out saying, man, I feel great. I feel relaxed. And that's the reason why you're stretching those muscles out and you're giving that state of relaxation. And the next one on our list is allow joints to move through full range of motion. So if you have a tight shoulder and you only can do this, well, then you can't reach the thing on top of your cabinet. So it allows your joints to move. If your muscles are tight, it impedes your shoulder or your hip, your knee from moving through its full range. So you really, again, we're going back to the same point I made. You decrease your function if you're stiff. There's no way you can operate sports or daily activities like you should be able to. And finally, and we're going to discuss this a lot, improve posture. And I put down very important health aspects, and we're going to talk about that. Okay, now here's your posture thing here. And I look at this, and people probably say, okay, this person's 20, 40, 60, and there's your 80-year-old. And people say, well, that's a normal way we should live. I mean, it's normal to look like that at 80. A lot of people will tell you that, but it's not. You develop that because of your habits. You develop that. So let's look at posture. You see this first one. We'll say that's a 20-year-old. You notice that their ear is pretty much even with the shoulder, and the line goes straight down. And as we age or as we do things we shouldn't do, in flexibility, sedentary lifestyle, we start going forward. You notice this person, their head is forward. And you notice the last person, head's way forward. If you look at the shoulder position here, what's their shoulder at? It's way forward again. So your whole body is out of balance. That person's not going to have very good function because of that. Okay, so how does this develop? Number one on my list here, if you can put this, you're going to hear me over and over say this, it's going to be computer work and a sedentary lifestyle. In our modern age, no one stands up and works much. We're all at a table. We're all forward hunched. We're looking at a computer. And so this is critical. You're going to hear me talk about that again and again. Now, the osteoporosis fractures. Now, this person here most definitely has had thoracic spine fractures. There's no question about how she's humped. And the front half of your vertebrae collapses down. And so the tendency is to be here. And once you get one, you get another one, you get another one. And pretty soon you're humped, just like that. Is that normal in life to have that happen? It's not normal to be like that. We get like that because of our lifestyle. Yeah, we're going to have some age-related things. Yeah, that's true. Or you'll have some osteoarthritis. You'll have some different things going on as you get older. But you don't have to look like that. That's for sure. Okay, so we talked about it is age-related, but it's not a normal process. That can be changed through exercise. Okay, negative consequences. The same type of diagram here. The negative consequences of this is number one. It's going to be neck pain. When your head is forward like this, there is no support. Your muscles are being tight, your joints are being compressed, and that is the prescription for neck pain right there. The more forward your head gets, the worse the pain in the neck can be. And, of course, there's pain in the upper back also. And if you look at the shoulder position being rounded, a shoulder position impedes your ability to raise your arm overhead. What I mean by that, if I had a forward posture and you told me to raise my arm over my head, that's as far as I can get, which is pitiful. But if you can raise the sternum, if you have normal elongation of your thoracic spine, I'm able to get way up there. So this person here probably is going to have a shoulder issue. So you can see how all that affects the way you move and live and do things. So, and this patient here, unfortunately, when you get so rounded, you even have pulmonary problems. You can't take a big breath. Your ribs are tight, and so you end up being hunched over, and it's going to infect your ability to exercise because you can't take a big breath. So pulmonary issues with that too. And I think my next slide kind of goes over that. Neck and back pain, shoulder pain dysfunction, and pulmonary dysfunction, all because of posture. Okay, so how often should we stretch? I have patients tell me, I stretch once a week. I say, that's pitiful. There's no way you're ever going to be able to you're not going to get elongation if you just go once a week. So I recommend daily would be the best, at least 3 times a week. And then I always tell my patients that we need to have repetitive stretching, and it needs to be a moderate stretch held for a prolonged period of time. Prolonged meaning at least 30 seconds, if not longer. I always start my patients at 30 seconds. It builds. I go to a minute, and can they do 2-minute stretch? But if you go to a yoga class, you may be in a position of stretch for 5 minutes. So that duration, and it has to be a moderate stretch. I have patients tell me, well, I just pull my leg up as hard as I can, and I hold it for 10 seconds. Worthless. The moment you get into pain, the moment pain hits, the muscle goes, you're not going to do this to me. You are not going to do this to me. I'm going to stop you. And then the muscle actually contracts, and you can't stretch. So I always tell my patients it has to be a moderate stretch, something that you can tolerate, that you're not hurting yourself, but you got to hold it for a long time. So static holds are really, really, really key to do that. And right here, when I say infrequent stretching does not improve, that's very correct. If you're not doing it, it's not going to help you. Who knows Djokovic, the tennis star? He stretches more than anyone that you can imagine on a tennis circuit. If you watch him play, he literally, remember that woman that was doing the splits when I first started? The woman, the picture I said, he literally can do that on a tennis court and hit a ball, jump back up, and run it down another ball. So he is going to be it's going to be hard for him to tear a muscle. Very hard because he's flexible. I had this patient of mine, and he's a good tennis player. Oh, by the way, Djokovic is a 7-0. That's what he is. My friend was probably a patient of mine was 5-0. He was a really good player. But he was forever hurting himself. I treated him from head to tail. I mean, there wasn't a part in his body that wasn't concrete. And he was wondering why he was hurting himself. But every time he would go for a forehand or a backhand, he would pull something. But he was a good tennis player. But he needs to spend hours stretching in order to be a better tennis player. Okay. All right, so we talked about 30 to 60 seconds, a moderate stretch, not pain-producing. And I didn't add here, too, try to take some nice deep breaths and relax into it, and it's always static. I have some patients that they'll do a stretch, and they're bobbing and weaving. I'm saying, don't do that. You excite the muscle when you do that. Just hold it, a moderate stretch, and that's your best way to increase your mobility. Okay, here's common tight muscles. I'm going to go over just a few here. Hamstrings, hip flexors, calf, thoracic, and pectoralis. We're going to go over each one. Here's your hamstring, of course. It runs from your bottom here on the ischial tuberosity down below your knee. There's 3 muscles involved, and they're always tight on people. People say, I never could touch my toes. When you touch your toes, that's the muscle you're stretching, okay? So why is that? The number one thing is prolonged seated postures. When you're sitting down with your knees bent, that hamstring is on slack. And actually, it adaptively shortens. So then you're incapable of really stretching your hamstring because you're sitting all the time. So prolonged sitting, and you'll hear me say that a million times, that is a key factor. And then, of course, the general sedentary lifestyle. You hear me say that again and again and again. Every patient I have, that's what it is right there. They're not doing anything at home. They're not playing golf. They're not playing tennis. They're not even walking hardly. So that's why it's tight. Now, I put down a medical condition here, and this can be for all of them. I had a patient who had a connective tissue disorder, which involves the muscles and the fascia and all that, and they were just incapable of stretching. But that was a medical condition. That's extremely rare to have a connective tissue disorder. Body type. You can say, well, if you're tall and skinny, is it going to be hard to reach your toes? Yeah, it might be. You're tall, you're longer levers. So body type plays a role in this. There's no question about it. But that doesn't mean, hey, I'm tall and skinny, so I'm not going to stretch. No, there's no excuses. You can still make improvements. Okay, and then the calf. Now, I'll tell you, this is a funny story. I'm going to tell this on my wife right now. But she always wears high heels, okay? And we were married. I remember this was years ago, but she'd wear high heels. And of course, and even when she took her heels off, her shoes, she'd still walk on her toes. It's like the heel was still there, right? And so when you do that, when your foot is what they call plantar flex down the whole time, you naturally develop, tightness in that region of your calf right here. You naturally develop tightness because it adaptively shortens again, because you're not putting it at a normal range. So that's one of the big factors with that is wearing heels. And again, sedentary lifestyle, or I've had people who had Achilles tendonitis, and you do damage to that muscle, and of course you can have tightness also. But again, stretching can really help that situation immensely. Okay, thoracic area tightness. This is the key with all those people that have poor posture. Like that woman we showed initially with the 4 women, really tightness in their spine. And that is a key thing with posture. And as we go forward, I'll show you what I'm talking about. The reason for that would be, number one, again, that computer use, prolonged computer use, always bent forward. I'll tell another little story. I'm Pam's brother. Not I'm Pam, but Pam's brother. Pam's brother is an accountant. And he sits at a computer, boy, I don't know how many hours a day, but he's always like this. He's always. And so when you even in trying to stand up straight, he's still slumped. He's still slumped. He's just adaptively shortened everything, and now he can't straighten up hardly. But that's part of your occupation. Okay, so we've talked about computer and even poor standing. Some people that are tall, they want to be shorter, right? They just say, well, I look funny. Let me just kind of bend over a little bit. And that's the wrong thing to do, too. So it's poor posture. And then we got to talk about back strength. Can you even straighten yourself up? Are you so sedentary that you do no back strengthening exercises at all? And that'd be another problem with that thoracic tightness. Then we have here, of course, driving is the same way as sitting. And then, of course, some people sit in chairs that this shouldn't be sitting in that chair. I mean, if it's not supporting yourself, then why buy the expensive chair and make it work? Don't get a cheap chair that gives you bad posture. All right, another big group is the pectoralis muscle. That's a muscle right in the front of your chest. And this goes hand in hand with the thoracic tightness because you're in this position, so your pectoralis muscle is now in a shortened position. It gets tight, and it just magnifies the whole area of tightness in your thoracic spine. So that's pectoralis tightness. And as you see, if I advance the slide, almost the same thing. Poor posture, computer, poor driving. And this one right here is really interesting to me. Involved in chest-dominant exercises. And Chris will maybe talk about this. I go to the gym, and the guys that want to get big pecs, really massive pecs, all they do is this. They do bench press, they do forward exercises. They do nothing for their back. So again, you're a muscle imbalance where one's more dominant than the other. And of course, back weakness like we just talked about. Okay, so in summary, exercise is essential to allow normal movement, daily functions, and health. And thank you so much.
Everybody stand up and stretch a minute. Okay.
Big one forward, back, and laser.
Dr. Chris Hutz. He received his doctorate of physical therapy degree at the University of North Florida, Jacksonville, Florida, in 2014. He has been a physical therapist now for 9 years and has worked in many settings such as nursing facilities, home health, outpatient, and travel physical therapy. Recently, he's pursued the business side of health, wellness, and physical therapy and rehabilitation. His passion lies in the combination of physical therapy, wellness, and prevention to provide patients the results that they are striving for. We're very happy to have Dr. Chris Hutz here, along with his wife Marnell and their precious little child Noah. Chris Hutz.
Testing. Am I on?
Yep.
Good deal. Much better. I would have had to be doing two things in both my hands, so I'm glad I got this mic. Thank you, David. All right. So, strength and stability training. So now that you guys are all flexible, let's dive into some strength and stability training. And the reason I put these two together is you really can't get stronger and do strength training if your joints aren't stable. So it's vitally important. And the quote I want to start with is, "Do not pray for an easy life. Pray for the strength to endure a difficult one." So with any kind of exercise, it's difficult, it's hard, especially on those days you just don't want to, show up to the gym or do what you love. So just keep that in your mind as I'm going through this presentation. So this is a medical doctor. He has PhD. So he says resistance training is, in my opinion, the most important activity for overall health and wellness. If you could only choose to do one thing, I'd say lifting would provide the greatest benefits. And really, as physical therapists, this is where we spend the most time: strength, stability, and then we do more of the cardio and the flexibility. But majority of our time is getting stronger, getting more stable. So vitally important. If you only have time for one thing, really focus on the resistance training. So here's some of the benefits to strength training. Instead of reading them all out, the thing I want to focus on is number 3. So helps prevent and manage type 2 diabetes. So this is one of what we call the 4 horsemen, or the 4 killers that our nation's dealing with. So type 2 diabetes. Number 2 is cardiovascular health. Number 3 is cancer. And then number 4 is neurodegenerative diseases, which could be dementia. So I wanted to highlight those because the strength training is just going to prevent those things. It's going to help lower your risk drastically if you really focus on getting your muscles nice and strong. All right, so why do we need it? Why do we need to do strength training? Why do we need to do stability? So think of a glass. So the outer part of the glass is the strength. So the taller the glass is, it holds more liquid, right? So ultimately, the stronger your muscles are, the more you're able to hold in that glass, be stable, be strong, and the more you can do in your life, which means quality of life goes way up. And in regards to longevity, exercise is by far the most potent longevity drug. So there's more and more research coming out to support that. If you get on a good strength training program, you can increase your lifespan by 5 to 7 years. So that's just drastic. And then also it's going to improve your quality of life in the present as well. So the centenarian decathlon. Who has heard of the centenarian decathlon? Any hands? Awesome. Yeah, cool. We got more than I thought. Awesome. So let's break these two words. So centenarian is ultimately living to be 100. Decathlon is a certain type of event, especially you see in the Olympics. And someone that runs a decathlon, they're not going to be the best at any of the activities, but they'll be well-rounded. They'll be good at, say, archery, good at running, good at swimming. So they're not necessarily the best. They're not, say, we have a lot of patients that come in that might want to run or train for a marathon, which is amazing. Let's train for that. But I always say someone that has the decathlon is more well-rounded. So keep this terminology in your mind as we're going through the presentation. So figure out your why. So why are you strength training? What's your purpose when you go to the gym? When you do activities outside? What's your ultimate purpose? So I want all of you to think about what you want your decathlon event to be. Ultimately, a lot of these things on here. So we got hiking 1.5 miles, picking up a young child off the floor. I'm doing that quite a bit these days. Climbing 4 flights of stairs. So what I'll actually have my patients do is go through a list, find the 5 to 10 most important activities to them, and gear your strength training, your program off those. And here's a perfect example. So this grandfather, one of his events was to be able to hold his granddaughter up. So with this, he needs a lot of strength. Not only does he need the pushing motion, the strong chest to hold his daughter up, he needs to be able to get on the floor, get up from the floor. So there's a lot of things at play here. So looking at this, you can gear your program, the stuff you do in the gym, to target these specific muscles. So super, super important. And then here's the 5 key pillars I always recommend my patients to address. Of course, between the 3 of us, we're hitting on all of them. Me, primarily, I'm going to focus on 4 and 5, which is stability and strength. And we'll get more into stability as we get going. Ideally, as my fellow therapists know, stability is we could have a whole another therapist up here talking just on stability. It's a topic that's just very, very important, but I'll do my best to combine the two. So here's some recommendations when it comes to these 2 different things. So thinking of stability, don't feel like you have to do it all in one session. Try to do stability with every one of your workouts. So whether you're going to do a strength training workout, whether you're going to do cardiovascular workout, which Jonathan will hit on more, do a little bit of stability each time you get out there, because then you're stabilizing your joints, you're preparing your body for the load you're going to be putting on it. And then with strength, the main thing here is just make sure you're addressing every muscle group, all the large muscle groups, and then all the smaller muscle groups as well. So motivation is what gets you started. Habit is what keeps you going. How many people have tried a New Year's resolution, for example? So that's motivation. That usually those will last. We see it all the time, a couple weeks, maybe a month. But we're more interested in making this a habit for you guys. Making just like reading your Bible. We want to make each of the exercises we go over. We want them to be automatic for you guys. So here's a basic beginner workout. So making sure you get a warm up, always super important. Make sure you're getting good blood flow, making sure you're getting that flexibility training in to prepare the muscles. And then I always recommend start with the large muscles and then work more towards the smaller muscles when you're doing your strength training. And then 12 to 15 reps each exercise. Start with one set per exercise, and then give yourself enough time of rest. So in between each exercise, just give yourself a chance to recover completely. So no matter how slow you go, you're still lapping everybody on the couch. So you just got to get started. You know, our nation just going through a epidemic. More and more people are getting obese, and the research shows if you're doing no exercise, if you can just go from zero, just nothing, to 3 hours, you're going to increase your lifespan by 1 to 2 years. So just getting started, just doing a little bit, will start to form that foundation for you. And then here's a more advanced workout schedule. I wanted to gear this so it was good for beginners and people that are more advanced. So this is the one I'm following. As you can see, I'm doing at least 10 minutes of stability every time I'm in there. Get that stability in, then I'm breaking up lower body strength, upper body strength, and then zone 2 training, which Jonathan will hit more on that, the zone 2 training. But main thing I wanted to point out was just how vital stability is for your workouts. So challenge yourself to step outside your comfort zone. So as my buds in the back, Danny, Josh, know, we're working out, and we're constantly helping each other go outside of our comfort zone, even Jonathan. So I want you guys to have that mentality when you're in the gym, when you're working out. Okay, so here's a good picture to represent the stability component I've been talking about. So as you can see, picture A, very unstable. She is unable to, she doesn't have good muscle balance between the sides. So when we load one side, she's ultimately fallen. Versus picture B, she's got good stability. And this is actually an exercise we will give to patients. Just literally have a kettlebell or dumbbell and just walk with it and see. We want to see if they can stay upright. And ways to progress this is distance that we have them walk, or the weight. We can always increase the weight. And again, build stability first. The main thing I wanted to point out is sometimes I'll recommend up to 6 months of stability training prior to picking up any weight. So really making sure all the joints are stable before adding weight to the bench press, the shoulder press, the row, those types of things. Super important. And then, And then this has to do with little kids. So little kids, perfect example is my Noah. So he's able to squat perfectly. Like he just gets down on the floor, able to get his butt down to the ground. Ankle mobility is good, everything. And really, we all should be able to do that. The problem is we get into sedentary jobs. We're not activating muscles. We're not keeping things flexible. And then we lose that ability. But really, we all should be able to move in space like a little kid moves. And here's a perfect example. So strong back. He's got a crease of hips, so he's got good hip mobility here. He's got the weight on the heels. A lot of people, when they squat, the heels come up, and that's because the mobility is limited or their hips are tight. So he's got his feet shoulder width apart, knees tracking over, but the knees aren't going in front of the toes. He has a good posture. He's nice and upright, and then his head's in a neutral position. So that should be a goal for all of us to be able to squat like that, right, Jody? All right, so here's a cat camel, and this is a great stability exercise because when I have a patient do this, I want them to try to move every segment of their spine. So I'll do it in a very slow fashion. So otherwise, when they do a deadlift, a squat, whatever it is, they're going to usually not be able to move the whole spine, so then it puts so much force, say like on the L4, L5, that's what creates an injury. So this is a great exercise to do prior to loading and strengthening. Here's a single leg balance exercise. You see this couple's happy, they're working out together, having a good time, and they're addressing some stability. And single leg balance, you can do this anywhere. You can do this when you're, even when you're brushing your teeth, for example. So just try to get it in. Toe yoga, not the most exciting exercise, but important, because our feet are the first thing that contact the ground, so we want all the little muscles in our foot to be working properly. And then these are called scapular cars, making sure the scapula has all degrees of motion that it goes through. So this is something you can do prior to doing shoulder press, prior to doing rows, things like that. Here's a side step, a very popular PT exercise. So putting a band on and then doing some side steps with squats. This will help stabilize the hips. And then again on strength training. So after the age of 30, sarcopenia or muscle loss kicks in. So this is why it's so important. You can lose as much as 3 to 8% of your muscle mass per decade. So think of your muscles as like a retirement savings. Whether you're in your 20s, 30s, 50s, try to build as much mass as possible. So when you get to the centenarian decathlon, you have all those muscles working for you. When you try to, say, put a suitcase up on a shelf in an airport, or trying to go up and down stairs, trying to pick up your grandchild. So you want to make sure all those muscles are nice and strong for you. So the body achieves what the mind believes. So all starts in the mind. So with your why, believe that you can achieve it, and then your mind will follow. Testing. Still hear me? Okay? Okay. All right, so then these are the 4 major tenets with strength training program. I always want people to make sure they're doing grip strength, concentric and eccentric loading, and we'll go over that. Pulling motions like a row, and then a hip hinging movement, which is like a deadlift. BFR training's blood flow restriction training. In essence, what that is, say we take the biceps, so we're going to put a cuff on someone's bicep to increase the pressure, decrease blood flow, and then they can do something simple like a bicep curl and work at less intensity, so less weight, and get the same type of results. So it's a way to not have to load the joint so much and still get great results. We do that a lot during rehab, say like ACL, rehab, or a biceps tear. So here she's working, this goes back to the other slide, working a lot on stability, working on core strength, and she's even working on grip strength, just having to hold that weight. So I'll have people just be walking around the clinic, and we'd increase distance, we'd increase weight, and it's just a great exercise. So after you do a couple laps on one side, then you can go to the other side and address that. Here's a step up. In my opinion, the best lower body exercise you can do. So with this, he's holding weight, so he's working on grip strength. If you do it properly, you have a hip hinge movement that you're doing, and back to the concentric, eccentric. So how I would instruct him to do this is step up for 1 second, so step up quicker. Then I would have him go slow on the way down. So then step down for 3 seconds. And the reason that is we actually lose eccentric strength first as we age. So usually if someone falls, they're going to fall by stepping down from a curb rather than stepping up. So that's just why it's so vital. We really want people to control that movement. Here's a row, a pulling motion. So very basic exercise that anyone can start with. Here's a way to progress it. He's on one leg, he's doing one arm, so you're addressing or adding a stability component to it, to the pull-in motion. Here's the deadlift. So when people do deadlifts, either they get really rounded or they do a curve back. We want them to be nice and flat during that deadlift. So when I'm instructing this, I want to start with no weight. Just make sure people got the form down prior to loading it. And really a way to make sure people are getting this right is, one, flexibility, but two, stability, like that cat-camel, for example, making sure every spinal segment is moving properly. Here's an exercise working what we call the transverse plane. And the reason the transverse plane is important is as we age, we need the transverse plane working during gait, during walking, so we want to make sure those rotational movements are strong. And then this is Peter Attia, so a lot of the longevity information I received was from him. He's a rock star. He's doing just incredible things out there. So if any of you want to nerd out like me, get this book. It is awesome. And that is it.
Okay, everybody stand up and stand on one leg for a minute. Okay. Oh, pretend you have 10 pounds in your arms and you're doing some bicep curls. All right. Our next speaker, Jonathan Arrocho, is a resident of Harrisburg and has grown up in the Sharon Church since 2004, when he moved here from Puerto Rico. He attended Hickory Grove Christian School from the 4th through the 12th grade and graduated from the University of North Carolina in 2019. He is currently in his second year of physical therapy school at Winthrop University, seeking his doctorate in physical therapy. One of the clinical rotations was with Chris Hucks at Ortho Carolina. Jonathan also worked as a physical therapy technician at Parker Physical Therapy with David Parker. We will continue to keep you in your prayers as you complete your degree, Jonathan.
Thank you. All right, testing. There we go. First of all, I want to start by thanking each one of you for coming out and investing in your health and just spending more time with fellow brothers and sisters who are trying to improve their health. I also want to thank Mr. Parker and, of course, Chris. He's been like a big brother to me. Obviously, I got my start with Mr. Parker as a tech and an aide, and then Chris saved me from having to be shipped off to Montana for my first clinical rotation. He bailed me out big time. But today, I'm going to be talking about the benefits of aerobic exercise. I know we've talked about the other components of exercise this afternoon, but this is one that gets ignored a lot of times, so I just wanted to give it some love. All right, what are some good reasons that you would want to start with aerobic exercise? Obviously, you can combat weight gain, increase your stamina, your fitness, and your strength as well, fight viral illnesses, reduce health risk, and manage chronic diseases. I know in the age of COVID that we've all had to live through, this is kind of a big topic for all of us. Increase your heart strength, keep arteries clear. In this nation, we suffer a lot with obesity, hypertension, things like that. So that's one important topic that we need to touch on today. Improve your mood. Of course, who can't use that? I would love to be in a good mood all the time, so that's why I try my best to exercise as much as I can and promote independence as we age. All right, so here are 5 easy aerobic exercises that you can start even today. What I love about aerobic exercises is that it's free, really. I mean, for strength training, sometimes you have to go get a gym membership because you don't have the gym equipment at home, but running in your neighborhood, walking in your neighborhood, taking a hike in the park, all that is free. It doesn't take a lot of experience to do. You can start right away. You can ease yourself into it as well. So we have cycling, Swimming, it's summertime, it's a perfect time to do it. Go to your local neighborhood pool, if you do, and go to a water park with your friends, make a whole outing out of it. You can run, jump rope. One quick anecdote about jump rope. So it was 2020. It was right in the middle of COVID. And my sister and I, we were bored at the house because we still weren't allowed to go out. All the gyms were closed. So she followed a jump roping account on YouTube. And she was like, they have a workout program that lasts 3 months. And if we start it now, it'll end on your birthday in June. So I was like, okay, I've never done jump roping seriously before, so let me try it. In addition, with a good diet and jump roping 5 times a week, I dropped from 168 pounds to 149, actually. And it was not my intention to get down that low, but I just was amazed at how much you can do when you implement such a simple activity, like going like this, along with a good diet, because that's always important. I was amazed at the results that I was able to get. All right, so first, what is aerobic versus anaerobic exercise? An example of aerobic would be brisk walking, swimming, running, cycling, whereas aerobic would be more like weightlifting, so going back to strength training like Chris was talking about, sprints, isometrics, things like that. One easy way to distinguish between those is anaerobic exercises are the ones that you find yourself forgetting to breathe when you're doing them. So weight training, you're like sprinting too. A lot of times I catch myself not breathing properly whenever I'm sprinting, and that's a huge part of sprinting if you want to advance and do a lot better. Whereas if you're walking or running, jump roping, it's a little bit easier to manage your breathing a little bit. And one cool one that I found also is gardening. So I think everyone in here is more than capable of gardening. It's not only good for our health, we spend time outside, get vitamin D, helps us form a community as well with other gardeners, so nothing but great benefits with that. So for the formal definition, aerobic exercises are endurance-type exercises that increase a person's heart rate and breathing rate over relatively long durations. So going back to weightlifting, you're only doing about 10 to 12 reps, so in a time frame of about 20 to 30 seconds, and then taking a break. Whereas with running and walking, the activity is continuing without much of a break in between. All right, anaerobic exercises are exercises that involve short bursts and intense activity, like I said. All right, some of the benefits. One important thing to remember, though, is diet. Nothing will kill your fitness journey like not having a good diet to go along with your aerobic exercises. If you've ever heard the term or the phrase, abs are made in the kitchen, there's a reason for that. In your fitness journey, your diet can make up anywhere from 60 to 80% of all the gains that you can make. You can exercise all the time, but if your diet is not where it needs to be, it'll just kill all the progress that you have made. So the right foods, the right balance, along with the right calorie count too, can make all the difference in the world for you. All right, so going back to the reasons that I stated earlier, the first one, combating weight gain. I already told you my story of how jump roping helped me lose a lot of weight. Aerobics can help you lose weight as well as keep it off. If you find a good system and a good routine that you can stick to, it makes it so much easier to not burn out whenever you're doing exercises. If you notice, during New Year's, that first month, people always go to the gym every day and then they taper off and they start right back up where they were in December, and they're going to say, oh, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to stick to it. If you find a routine that works for you, that is attainable for you, it'll be so much easier for you to keep up with it. Even light exercises like walking, I love to take Sabbath walks as much as I can. I take my Sabbath nap first, though. Got to get that quick nap in. But I always make sure to get up, go on a walk, take a little lap around the neighborhood, get that vitamin D going, gets me in a lot better mood, helps me to get focused to study for my next exam. That's on Monday. So if there's any students here, you guys can relate. But yeah, always make sure to keep that calorie count where it needs to be as well, and that can help prevent excess weight, which is a problem that in the Western world, not just in the US, but Canada, other countries like that, we also face that problem. Increase stamina, fitness, and strength. So when you start on your fitness journey, you're going to feel tired initially. Even if you're someone who's in shape, but if you don't do aerobics regularly, even you're going to feel it. If you guys take a drive down to your local gym, find the biggest dude in there, odds are that if you asked him to run 3 miles right now, after mile 1, they're going to be like this. And that's because we like to focus on the attractive parts of exercises, like the attractive muscles trying to look big for the ladies, but we forget and ignore aerobic exercise as well. And that's part of being a well-balanced athlete, well-balanced individual, is to hit all the different points as well. Repeated exercise will help improve your heart and muscle function. Remember, the heart is also a muscle. If you don't put it under stress every now and then, it's going to get a little bit flabby on you. And it's not going to like when it goes from resting all the time to then all of a sudden you forcing it to have to contract and do a lot of work. Bone and muscle can also be strengthened as well. So going back to Wolff's Law, this is something I learned in my first semester of PT school last year. Bone will adapt to the loads under which it is placed. So if you find yourself sitting on the couch all the time, your bones can eventually become brittle faster as well. So increased load can lead to increased adaptation. You can also fight viral illnesses. There's a thing called COVID. Ever heard of it? Well, it's been ruling our lives for the last 3 years, unfortunately. And we found that a lot of the people that passed to COVID, who weren't able to survive, were people who had multiple comorbidities. And a lot of those can be addressed with a good diet, again, but aerobic exercise. You improve your heart strength, your heart health, as well as your lung health as well. And you don't have to be a medical person to know that COVID impacted your lungs, your breathing. That's what made it so difficult for so many people to get over it. But it can also fight the cold and the flu, which are diseases that we face every single year. Reduce health risks and manage chronic diseases. So we're talking about a little bit of the 4 horsemen earlier. And that's something that I would see all the time when I worked with Chris and when I worked with Mr. Parker as well in the clinic. Obesity, huge killer in our nation. Heart disease, hypertension, type 2 diabetes, these all go hand in hand. These are the big ones. There are other ones, though, that can have a huge negative impact on your health. All right, so going back to increasing heart strength. So increased and more efficient pumping of your blood is one of the big benefits that aerobic exercise can produce. Oxygen is carried throughout the blood, so the more blood that you can get pumping, the more oxygen your body is going to get, as well as nutrients that are in your blood as well. Remember, the heart is a muscle. You have to give it some love. You have to work it out too. Don't baby it all the time. Keeping arteries clear, so going back to hypertension, things like that. It can help boost your HDLs, your good cholesterol, your high-density cholesterol, and decrease your LDLs, the bad cholesterol. It can help decrease the buildup of plaque, which, of course, leading factor that can lead to heart disease as well as heart attacks. Improving your mood. Let me take a quick poll of people. Have you ever found yourself feeling just a little bit better and a little bit clearer after you do a morning run, a morning walk? Can you guys relate to that? Show of hands. Absolutely. There's a reason for this. Aerobic exercise and exercise in general can help combat depression and anxiety, which are at all-time highs in our nation and around the world as well. Exercise can help improve sleep, which can help improve mood. One problem I was running into my first semester of classes I was trying to get adjusted to graduate school and doctorate school schedules was my sleep would get impacted. So I wouldn't get 7 to 8 straight hours of sleep. I would wake up in a bad mood. I wouldn't want to be in the mood to work out. I wouldn't work out. And then I would feel crummy the entire time. My sleep would get even worse. My mood would get even worse. It's all a cycle that fits in. One thing leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. And I had a conversation with my primary care physician, and he said, take a moment, give yourself a break, make sure that you exercise. Even if it's something light, I know you feel like you don't have enough time to do it, but even if you do a quick walk, a quick little run, it can have a huge boost to your confidence and to your life. I did that, and my grades improved. Immediately, I was able to start getting sleep, finally. And I felt a lot more accomplished, too. There's nothing like the feeling of having a great workout early in the morning, and you got it done, and you have the rest of the day to do everything else that you have to do. But you can face the day now knowing I've already gotten through the hard part as well. The rest of the day is mine to do some great stuff with it. Another huge part that people don't talk about is you can help build a community with exercise. Chris touched on it a little bit earlier, but we have Josh, we have BJ, we have Danny, David I saw here earlier. We have grown so close due to the fact that we all love to exercise together. Now we're like family. We go to each other's birthdays, weddings, celebrations, things like that. And that can also help improve your mood. It can help you feel like you're not alone, like you have a community that is with you. And believe me, we've all had struggles that we've had each other's backs on throughout the last 5 years as we've gotten to know each other. It can help promote independence as we age. So healthy habits can help us maintain better health. We can be less dependent on others and live more quality years. So I have a classmate of mine. His father actually passed away earlier last year, and he was a huge runner. He loved aerobic exercise. He got his entire family to do it, including his dad, so my classmate's grandfather. And my classmate told me, I think it was like 2 semesters ago, his grandpa's in his 80s, and he's running long-distance races, actually. So people, age is just a number. So how Mr. Parker and Chris were talking earlier, your age doesn't have to dictate what activities you want to do. Exercise can provide a good source of structure for people. It's easy for you to follow, something that you can be passionate about. It increases your muscle strength, which leads to more mobility, as Chris said. It can help protect memory and cognitive function. So part of Alzheimer's is actually you have a little bit of atrophy of parts of your brain. And you can get a lot of that because you don't have enough blood flow going to those parts of the brain. So it's important for us to get as much blood flowing, as much aerobic exercise, because that's one of the things that aerobic exercise does the best is get blood flowing throughout the entire body. And patients who are early on in Alzheimer's, they're always told to try to do light to moderate exercises as well to help get blood flow to their brain and then help prevent the onset of dementia. So I wanted to end our talk today by telling you guys you can do it. If you want to find places to walk around, run around, I grew up in Charlotte. I can tell you like 50 places off the top of my head, so there's no excuse for you guys. Feel free to reach out to any one of us. And I don't feel like I deserve to be on this stage with some of these amazing health professionals, but hopefully that'll be me. Here in a couple years, I'll be able to help even more people than I already have. I want to thank you guys so much for joining us.
So I believe we're going to have a little demonstration of a couple of these exercises next. Everybody stand up a minute and pretend you're jogging in place or jumping rope. Come on, let's go. Come on, get that blood going. No Alzheimer's here. Okay.
All right, I'm going to have Jody come up here, and I'm going to go over some basic stretching exercises. Jonathan, give me the stuff off here. I'll take that strap. So I have a sheet here of just the muscles we talked about. They're always tight. Number one would be the hamstring, and Julie's going to be my guinea pig here. And if you want to, there's a QR code here. You can take your camera, and you can download these exercises if you want to. I'll leave it up here for you guys. All right, so Julie's going to lay on her back. No, up on the table, Julie. Everyone has to see you. What are you doing? All right, so a basic hamstring stretch. She's going to hang on. You can use a sheet. You can use a towel.
I don't know if that's on.
It's on.
It is?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. A sheet or a towel. And so I always tell my patients, pull up to the point. Now, you see your knee is bent a little bit. So that hamstring's a little bit tight. So maybe back it off a little bit and feel a moderate stretch. And then, of course, she's on count to 30. Okay, don't count by twos. My patients count by twos all the time. Sometimes by tens, by the way. But you will hold that for 30-second duration, at least I start them off. And then you can go to a minute, you can go 2 minutes. And the idea is to feel that stretch. A moderate stretch should not go into pain or a muscle's going to cramp on you, and you're not going to do a good job. All right? And maybe I had my patients do it 5 times, 30-second hold 5 times. And you can always advance that. But that's a basic hamstring stretch. All right, thank you for that one. Now, we're going to move on. And I want you to do that cat-cow for me. Yeah, and this was featured with Chris's activity. But I have a lot of my patients. Remember, we talked about that thoracic spine tightness. But just trying to sink down and head up and sink down. And then that's trying to get that thoracic spine to be able to move. And then if she does the opposite, head down and arch up. Now she's getting the kyphotic spine. Now this is why I don't, if you have a problem here, I wouldn't stress this. I would stress the other part there, trying to sink down and try to really, really get that part of the back moving. And again, the holding duration, 30 seconds, 5 times at least. We're going to do hip flexor stretch. Remember, I said when we sit down a lot, we develop tightness in our hips. Yes. Head right up here. Yep. I want you to bring your knee up to your chest, and this is going to hang off the edge. Come right to the edge there. And so we're getting a good hip flexor stretch of this. Now, if she bends her knees back a little bit more, she's going to feel an erectus femoris, and that's a good stretch anyone can do. You have a bed? You have a bed? Yes, you can do it on the edge of the bed. I tell all my patients, get on the edge of the bed and try to stretch that. Because when we sit all the time, that hip flexor, the deep one, the psoas major and minor, are going to be getting adaptive shortening. They're not going to be able to stretch. So that's a good one that we do. Okay, Julie, now let's do, I need you guys here. You're going to be a wall, and you're going to be a door frame. Stand right here, and Julie's going to go in between the door frame. So you're a wall here. You come on. Yeah, sure. Hold your arms straight up. Now, Julie's going to put her hands on this side of the door frame, and she's going to go forward, and we're going to stretch our pectoralis muscles. Put one foot forward there, Julie. 1 foot forward. And then she's going to come forward. When she comes forward, she's going to have a pectoralis stretch. Remember, when we're tight in the thoracic spine, we're bent forward, we're at the computer all day long. If you're at the office and you're doing this, find the door frame and just stretch. Try to reverse the process of that kyphotic forward bent position. And the door frame's a perfect thing to do that. Now, on my sheet, you can see a picture of that if you want that. And the last one, I'm going to have Judy, see how acrobatic she is. Come over here, Judy. Yeah, you got to come over here, you got to do this. She's going to lie on it. Sit on it first here, Judy. And then she's going to let her feet go forward, hands over her head. Spread your legs apart, yep. And she's going to stretch the whole back. And so, again, you're getting thoracic extension, so you're really helping to develop that better posture and not be rounded like that, like most Americans are. But that's a great one. Now, Jody, come over here for me. Okay. All right. Okay. Now, if you don't have a ball, balls are cheap. If you pay $20, you pay too much. A ball is cheap. But a foam roller, now this is not to hit your family members with. But go ahead and put on. You can always, I tell my patients, put that about mid-scapular area. And she can put her hands behind her head. Bend your knees up, Judy. And hands behind your head. Both hands. You can see how you can go backward bend. That's the same position she had on the ball, but it's a little more stable. A ball, you can fall off and break your neck. But this is good. So she's going over the top of that, and you can see how we can develop. This is the ideal thing to have at the office. If you sit all day, if you have a chance to lay on the floor and just stretch yourself out, try to reverse the process of always been bent forward, and that's a perfect example. And these are a $20 item. I mean, if you go on Amazon, you can get that for $20 easily. So that's the 5 I have. If you want that in a video form, you can use your phone right here, and you can download that. Okay, that's all. That's all me.
Thank you, Jody. So similar to David, I have QR code as well. The top one is beginner exercises. The bottom is more advanced. So if anyone wants to scan this at the end, feel free. So would anyone like to get some strong muscles? Can I get any volunteers? Go over a couple exercises. Danny? I have 3 exercises too, so we can do 3 different volunteers.
There we go.
This is a row, so I'm going to have to do a pulling motion. So what I'm going to have you do is just pull the man back, keep your elbows in, try to squeeze your scapula together. Yes, sir. There you go. Hold for a few seconds. As you can see, he's working those back muscles. Like David was saying, a lot of people want to develop their chest, huge chest muscles, and then it rounds you forward. Working those back muscles balance you out. Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's a little bit better. So he's working the back muscles that balances the whole, the chest to the back there. And then to make this harder, so I'll have you stand on one leg, either one, there you go, and then pull with the opposite arm.
Wow.
There you go. Good, and I can always add the tension. There you go. And switch legs for me. And just like that. So that's a way, once the row becomes easier, you can add a stabilization component to it. Beautiful. Thank you, Danny.
So why do you take it in your vacations?
Oh, yeah, it's perfect. So like David was saying, you can take these TheraBands anywhere. So you have no excuse not to work out. Traveling, at your desk, anywhere you can. What's that, BJ? Yeah. Could I get a second volunteer? Josh? All right, let's do it. Take those weights. There we go. So these will be light for you, but we'll get her done. All right. So come down here, Josh. So we're gonna do a step up. So have you come right down here for me? And if anyone can't see, you can always come closer to see the form and everything. So what I'll have you do, Josh, step up with one leg. And before you step up, shift your weight towards your foot, yes. And then step up with this leg, 1 second up. And then when you step down the same leg, think 3 seconds down. 1, 2, 3. Beautiful. Okay, try it again. So he's really, really using that side. He's powering through, doing the concentric. Now step down to the right. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. So ideally, it wouldn't be stairs like this because he has to really step back to get step down. So usually we'd have like a box, but again, you can do these anywhere as long as you have some stairs. So appreciate you, my man. All right, then one more volunteer. BJ? All right, where's the... All right. Oh, got it in my pocket. Put that around your ankles for me. Yes. This is a patient favorite here. So what I'll have you do, BJ, and what he's going to be doing is working his hips, hip stabilizers. So squat down a little bit, and then step to the side. There you go. Keeping tension in the band. Good. And once you get to there, go to the left. So what he's doing, he's working these side glute muscles. So when he does other things like squats or other functional activities, those muscles will keep the pelvis stable for him. Feeling that burn, BJ? Yeah. Go one more lap for me. There you go. And he's keeping a good squat form. A lot of people, what they'll do, they won't squat completely with this one, or they won't. The band will keep getting loose on them. So you want to keep the band tight the whole time, so the band or the muscles are always activated. Good job. Appreciate you. Thank you, sir. All right, Jonathan, you want to have people run around the church?
Yeah, so unfortunately for my volunteers, you have to do a quick lap around the church. No, I wouldn't do that to you. So the weird part about mine is that my exercises are more like, oh, go on a brief run, go on a brief walk. I don't think those are things that we necessarily have to demonstrate, I wouldn't think, but here's a couple of exercises I can give you that you can do around the house. So if you live in a house that has more than one floor, a great exercise that you can do, and one that I did during COVID, where the gyms were closed, were simply going up and down the stairs. Doesn't seem like a lot, but you do that 10 times, you're going to start feeling it. And I would try to knock out about like 20 to 30 total of going up and down, and you'll see how high your heart rate can get. Another one you can do is simple jumping jacks. Again, it's free. It doesn't require any special equipment, any gym membership for you to do. So that's a great one for you guys to do. Again, it's cheap. Anyone can afford it, even me. And another great one that I would suggest you guys do after this session is over, please spend some time outside. Go on a quick walk. If you have a dog, take your dog out for a walk. If you don't get an exercise from that, they'll make sure to give you an exercise because they're going to pull you because they love being outside as well. But yeah, those are just some brief ones that I have for you guys, and thank you.
Okay, hello, I'm Kerry Lester, and I'm going to lead you through the question and answer session of this. Let me just say this, because this is unscripted. I have been a member of the health ministry team for over 10 years in this church, and I am so proud. You guys killed it today. You know, when I think of David, Chris, and Jonathan, they're not the 4 horsemen, they're the 3 worthies. So thank you so much. So I have the mic. If you have a question for them, just raise your hand. I see one right back here, and I will.